Bob from Go Wags Baseball Training Center, and we want to do an overview of strength training for rotational power for baseball. And just to summarize on the front end here, I want to really keep this simple. I think a lot in the training world gets overly complex, and to talk in general terms, there are a few major points you can understand without getting specific that are important points. When you talk about exercise execution for any individual, now that can get a little more detailed. But by nature of the beast here in a YouTube video, we're keeping it general. I want to lay out just an overview of some of the best exercises for baseball players. And in baseball, throwing and hitting, a lot of rotational movement, right? So when we talk about rotation, this is transverse plane movement, this type. This is sagittal plane, right? If you think this way, your knee bends in the sagittal plane. Think frontal plane is this direction, right? And the magic here with free weights, we get off the machines because when you're on a machine and you're stabilized, you don't have to control the weight. And for the purposes of strength training, we're not talking about power training with medicine ball throws and jumping and things like that. We're just talking about strength training. That control and that controlling rotation is very important. And that's where you get a huge benefit out of free weight movements that you apply for baseball. And with that being said, we want to talk about really good establishing stability in the transverse plane before we worry about a lot of mobility and movement in the transverse plane. And you'll see, I'll troubleshoot some of these basic movements with what you see with typical athletes that have poor control of frontal plane, transverse plane movement. Okay? So with that being said, we're off the machines, we're learning good control with free weights, and I want to show you some of the beginner's work, just what that might look like. Okay? And where's a good place to start? Push-ups, right? Push-ups are a great thing. For baseball players, there's more transverse plane stability involved with single leg and single arm movements. So we talk about little unilateral movements, one arm, one leg at a time. And that's critical for a lot of athletic endeavors in general. But especially baseball players, how do we make push-ups have a more rotational component? And how do you start with that is on one leg, okay? So if I have to stabilize and keep my lower back neutral and my hips flat and execute a push-up, there's a small transverse plane component of doing that, okay? And of course, if you can't control it on two legs, if push-ups are a challenge, and even that simple idea is hard for you, then of course you start with two legs down, right? There's a progression involved. But you want to see this happen on one leg. There's definitely a small rotational component, and if you have weakness in the transverse plane, poor control in the transverse plane, you will see this. You will see somebody go down and twist. You'll see the back bow one way or another, butt high, butt low. But the trick is to really lock that in, keep your spine neutral from your sacrum to your head, and rattle off some push-ups that way. All right? So that's just one way you get a little bit of a transverse plane component to a simple exercise. And how do we make that harder, right? You can try this variation of push-ups. Both legs down, okay? If you have both legs down, you do push-up, and when you're up, pick one arm up and salute, right? And do that without rotating your trunk. So, not this, right? Okay? And if you add weights to it, you can definitely do this with dumbbells. Push-up, row, row, and keep your lower back locked straight. Not push-up, row, row. And you will see a lot of athletes do that with a simple exercise. Last push-up variation, right? Push-up, what about with an arm slide? This is hard to not rotate and do this, okay? Light touch, okay? Even if you bang out 5 on each arm, that's hard, that's a challenge. But watch for that, you limit yourself to what you can control in that transverse plane, okay? So that's one thing. We move on to the dumbbell row, number 2 exercise. We're going over the top 5 here. Flat back. Right, this is an old school weight training move. Great for baseball players because you're rowing hard with one arm, fairly stable base. Okay, and we want to see the shoulder blade come back on the rib cage, right? So I get some rotation up here, but not my lower back. And even in the setup, you'll see athletes do all kind of different things. rounded back, right? Rowing with their back out of position. That's not neutral, okay? Or you start neutral and then, right, we're not pulling the chainsaw. So you want the upper half to rotate, but your pelvis and lower back to stay flat, all right? So 6 to 8 good hard reps on each side, very low risk, a lot of reward with that one. Third thing, pull-ups, good old-fashioned pull-ups. We're going to do a more detailed video on pull-up progression, but suffice to say that most athletes have a lot of bang for their buck from getting stronger in this vertical pull movement. If this is too much, sure, lat pull down is fine, but we want to teach athletes how to keep their shoulder blades engaged first. You don't need a baseball player especially, the more experience you have, you don't want to get into this, right? You want to keep those shoulder blades locked and then pull from there, keeping your lower back neutral, neck neutral. We're going to do another video on that later. So we have pull-ups, landmine press, okay? We'll go over here. We're going to do a video on some vertical press variation, and I think baseball players do stand to benefit from doing some variation of overhead press. This is one of the best. And we go in a half kneel position. You have to raise this up, keep this locked, neutral spine, right? And if I push with one arm, you'll see when this gets heavy, I definitely have a rotational component to this. And you want to have this other hand free. Don't lean, don't grab anything. Try to just really stay flat here. Because right when I push away, it tends to want to twist my spine, twist me the other way, but I'm keeping locked in. All right, so that's a great vertical press variation. We're going to do more on that in the future too. And last one, I love these the clean and press from the floor with one arm, because it's primarily upper body, it's definitely total body, but you get this activation throughout your whole core. You need to know how to do a neutral, keep your lower back neutral and hip hinge to get down to get this. But if you pull this, right, catch it, and then a little press, a little leg drive's okay. But see how my arm's neutral here? And you can do this with a kettlebell, it's fine. So there's some rotational stability and frontal plane stability, right? To not tilt and twist my torso while I'm pressing, right? So that's a good one. We usually do those in sets of 5. You can build up some decent weight with that, but slowly. It doesn't carry all the risk of with a barbell, right? So love to hear any questions you have, any comments, and stay tuned. We're going to do some more. Thanks. At least say good enough.